Sunday, Parshas Kiseitze, Gimel El Tovshin Peva, Baruch Ha'Mabon B'Shem Hashem, to everybody, welcome back from the country, Baruch Hashem, Shechiyonu V'Kimanu Yom Zman Hazeh, a new year of Shurim, the Harav, Agon, Rabbi Yakov, the Smith Shlita. Today's topic is selling and using non-kosher food. Issur Choyre B'Dvarim Asurim. Today's is learned the Nishmas, Nidvas, Yidedein Moshe Klein, Nishmas Oviv, Rabbi Yisroel ben Moshe Menachem, Nishmas Imai Edel Bas Rav Abi, also Nidvas Avram Matchashtayim, Nishmas Oviv, Rabbi Yitzchak Yudah ben Rabbi Yisroel. The Yotzit is this coming Shabbos. Rabbi said the dinner Regifting Terrace tomorrow night, Mi'at Hashem. We hope everybody could join us in Young Israel of Avenue K East 29th Street. It's not just a dinner, it's a chizek HaTorah for the shiurim a whole year all over the world. Hundreds of thousands of Yidden on the henna from these shiurim worldwide, from 5 different websites. Today it's a different world. We opened a new website for Regifting Torah itself, regifting.com, regifting.org. You can watch the shiurim. Whoever wants to have the chus to donate, the sponsor shiur, donate to Regifting Torah, could donate it through the website as well. We're hoping to see everybody at the dinner tomorrow. We need big schusim for the Yom Adin, and this is the biggest schus of Abbas Torah all over the world. Now the cover is here to call Harav Agon B'Yakov Smishlita, a fresh shir to start a whole new year of series of Shurim Be'ezus Hashem. Harav Smishlita.
First of all, Baruch Ha'Boyim, it's good to be back, and I just wanted to hope that the Olam is happy to see me. I'm happy to see you. It was a wonderful summer, but it's still always good to come back. Today we have a fascinating sugya. Happens to be we just laying the parsha, but my issur is someone got a very expensive gift, a treif gift from a cashier worker. It was meat platter. He said it was worth at least $150. Today they have meat and they have dry meat. The kid, he got a gift of tarfus, and he wanted to know, could he give it to someone else? He owes a cashier worker, he owes an acquaintance a gift. He heard Epish, you're not allowed to have hana from treif meat or treif food. Now, the truth is, in a business, this is a gay, especially in the holiday season, you have to give the cashier workers gifts. They have wine, chocolate, and the question simply is, when you have a treifus, are you allowed to use it, give it away, and sell it? Is there an issur, a special issur on using tarfus? We just heard a shiloh where someone had a big shipment of vegetables, and he came to his business, and it was fully infested. Terrible infestation of worms. He can't eat it, it's treif. Can he sell it to a guy, of course? So I must make a point before we begin, that if there's any chashash lifnei iver, let's say you're going to give it to a cashier worker, but he's not a guy, he's a friar yid. So that's lifnei iver. Now, you say he doesn't care, but we care. There's no het lifnei iver. Even if he doesn't care, there's no het daita the nafshe. So today we're talking about where there's no chashash lifnei iver whatsoever, number one. Number two, and this is also important, there are certain issurim that are asa b'hana. For example, yayin nesech, real yayin nesech, asa b'hana. So that you can't give away, you can't have any hana whatsoever, you can't regift it. So today's sugi we're talking about, number one, it's no lifnei iver, and number two, there's no chashash of isurei hana. It's not bas b'chalav, it's not chamash of Pesach, it's regular tarfus. Is there an issur of using and benefiting from tarfus? So the pashtus, this should be a pasuk in the Torah in Parshas Shmini. The Torah speaks about treif of fish. Sheketz heim lachem, sheketz yiu lachem, mibsarm lo yisechelu, ves nivlasam tishaketzu. Now the pasuk seems to be saying you can't eat treif fish, or any tarfus for that matter. Now the implication seems to be, if you're not going to eat it, rather you're going to sell it or gift it, give it away as a gift, what's the issur? The pasuk seems to be saying don't eat it. But there's another pasuk, we just learned it in Parashat A, that's even a bigger raya. The pasuk says, L'seichlu kol nevela, l'ger asher b'shachrena b'sharecha titnena, v'achala, oy mocha l'nachri. The Torah explicitly allows you to sell tarfus to a guy. So it can't be like this person heard you can't sell tarfus. The Torah says, oy mocha l'nachri, you're allowed to sell tarfus. So we have good reason to assume that there's no such issur. you're allowed to have anah from tarfus, if it's not issur anah. So therefore, you're allowed to give it as a gift or even sell it. However, both Bavli and Yerushalmi seems to say beferish there is an issa of schayra. Zok the Mishnah in Shviyas Perek Zayin Mishnah Gimel ein oisen schayra beperish Shviyas. The word schayra is a key word for today. Schayra means business. You can't do business with perish Shviyas, v'loi b'chayres, v'loi b'trumais, which is all understandable because they're all isuri hana, v'loi b'nevelis, v'loi b'treifis, v'loi b'shkotzim, v'loi remasim. So here the Mishnah is telling us there's an issa of schayra by tarfus. Not only shviyas, which we understand is an issa of hana, but there's a special issa of schayra with tarfus. There's another source, and actually it's a Gemara in Bavli Psachim Chav Gimel. The Gemara says if someone's nizdamen loy tarfus, for example, we'll soon see this is a very practical example. Someone's a big fisherman. He goes out to sea and he catches fish. Inevitably, in the nets, there's treif of fish. So it's up to Gemara that a fisherman or a trapper, for that matter, who catches treif of fish or treif of animals, since he wasn't intending to make business from tarfus, it's nizdamen loy. It sort of enters his trap. It comes to him. That's mutter to benefit from. So the diuk is obvious. Let's say it's not nizdamen. Let's say he goes out looking for treif animals. It would be usher to sell those animals. And the third source is mefurish in Yushalmi Shviyas, beginning of Perek Zayin. Zokte Mishalmi matam elaim atmeim yiu lachem ela echad issa achila ve'echad issa hana. Now this is a chiddush. The Shalmi is saying it's an issa hana from tarfus. It can't be. But the Shalmi explains what does it mean hana. But listen closely. Kol davar she'isuri dvar toyer, whatever's an issa deraisa, l'mashal treif of fish, treif of animals. Also lasais ba'is chayra. So the word hana in the Shalmi's context is not hana, it is schayra. So now we have somewhat of a question mark. How do we deal with this? The answer is very simple. A treif of fish, good example, there's no issa hana. It's a pasuk in the Torah. You're allowed to have hana. But to make schayra out of it, that's the issa of schayra b'dvar masurim. So it's not a stira. But if you have basar b'chalav or chametz of a pesach, there's an issa hana. You can't have any hana. Tarfis, more often than not, there's no issa hana. Navas, there's an issa of schayra. So you can't sell it. But we'll soon see there are many heterim when you're not trying to sell it. But now the klal is schayra b'dvar masurim is an issa. And Pashtas, as we'll soon see, based on a pasuk, it's an issa deraisa. Now to apply it lamaisa, and you'll see how clear this hagdara is. Let's start with a simple question. Someone has a shayla, a suffix. If this is treif, but he said, you know what, let me sell it. So he has a suffix, issa schayra. How do we deal with a suffix, issa schayra? Avada issa schayra, we just said, is awesome. How do you deal with the suffix, issa schayra? So this lachar should be very simple, because the general klal is that a regular is suffix deraisa l'chumra, right? Suffix d'abana l'hakol. Now the big question is, how do you look at the issa schayra? If it's deraisa, sveika deraisa l'chumra. If it's d'rabanan, it should be mutter. And here it seems from as early as Toisim Psachim Chav Gimel, and if you look at the Rosh and in Bava Kama, Rosh Mukiyos of Rashba, it's a sugi we'll soon see, growing davar achar, growing chazerim. But the Rishonim, Kemat, all Rishonim, and Gedali HaPoiskim, the Bach and our Simon, today our Simon is Yeridei Simon Kuf Yud Zayin, and interestingly enough, the Lavush and the Sma and Choyshe Mishpah Tov Tes. What does Tov Tes and Choyshe Mishpah have to do with us? That's the issur of raising chazerim, raising davar achar. So there the Paiskim say that the issa schayra with tarfus is an issa deraisa. The Chasam Soifa in the Tshuva Yardei Kuf Hey, and I quote the Lashon, Kamat kol ha-rishonim v'achrayim echlitu le'issur deraisa. The Rishonim and Achrayim consider schayra b'dvar masurim and issa deraisa. with the lone exception of the Trumas Hadeshin and Chelik Aleph Siman Reish. He feels, based on a Gilyon HaToises, that the issur schar is only midrabanan. Now he's followed by the Noid Yehuda Tinyana Yerdei Siman Samach Beis, who says his skamas kol achroinim, that the issur schar is only midrabanan. Now the later achroinim wonder on the Noid Yehuda, where did he get that from? I saw the Ksaf Soifa in the Tshuva Yeridea, wonders where did he, how in Yeridea Siman Ayin Dal, how could he say kol as paiskim? I think we're comfortable to say that Roiv, Rishonim, and Achroinim hold that the issur schayra is an issur deraisa. So now let's approach the sugya and all its practical examples. So one thing we could say, Pashit, if you have a suffix, if this is issur schayra, treat it like a deraisa, sveik a deraisa l'chumra, because askamas, like Lashon the Chavsam Seifa, kol Rishonim v'Achroinim echlitu l'issur deraisa. The Prichodosh, in our sim in Kufi Zayin Sid Cotton Bays says that it's an issur deraisa, so therefore sveika deraisa l'chumra, and then he adds, even if he holds the Rabbanon, but it's the Rabbanon based on a pasuk, as we saw earlier, and therefore it's like a divrei Kabbalah. Divrei Kabbalah is like a divrei Torah. So sveika suffix issur schayra we treat l'chumra. Okay. Now I want to ask you another question. Again, we have to realize that the world is bigger than Brooklyn. The world doesn't end by the Brooklyn Bridge. There's a big world. And a lot of these shaylas, either I heard or I saw mafurish. So even though it's not negeya to us in Borough Park and Flatbush, but it's a different lifestyle when you live out of town. I'll give you one of the very common examples. Someone has a supermarket in an out-of-town neighborhood, which is Yiddish Goyish. It's not predominantly Jewish like our neighborhoods. And he cannot survive unless he attracts Goyish customers, because the Yiddish clientele is not so much. So he wants to at least attract Goyish customers by doing the following. See, a Goy doesn't mind buying a Yiddish store if the price is right. But Chalav Yisrael milk and cheese and all the basic staples, bread, the Yiddish brands are more expensive. The milk is almost twice the price than a Goyish milk. So he wants to at least have a service. He'll write with big letters, non-kosher items, and he'll sell cholav akum, gvinas akum, pas akum, bishul akum. This way, at least the basic staples will be, moderately priced, competitive to a Goyish store. So hopefully, this will get him more Goyish customers. But this l'chayra is a real issur schayra, schayra b'dvar masurim. However, if you notice, the tzad hashav, all these shaylas, they're all issurei d'Rabbanan. Bishul, pas, cholav, gvinas, akum, all d'Rabbanan. If you read the Lashon Shulchan Aruch in Kuf Zayin, kol davar she'asa min ha'Torah, ava b'shemut v'hanam, it's issur schayra. That's the Lashon that's based on Yishalmi. In fact, the Mechaba at the end of our Siman, Kuf Zayin, spells it out. V'chol davar she'ein isuri ela midivreim, mutta lasais boy schayra. A very important yisoid that the issur schayra is only by an issur deraisa. Whatever's an issur derabbanan, there's no issur schayra. Now, I did see one of the early achrayim says that gvinas akum is more chomer than a regular derabbanan, but it seems the other place did not accept that as halacha l'maisa. So the answer is yes. This yid, he has basically a store and he wants to compete and get some more Goyish customers. It's mutter to sell any issur derabbanan. And again, gvinas akum, cholav akum, pas akum, and bishul akum, even if it's awesome. Now, today we have certain heterim, but he's saying even if it's awesome, it's mutter to make schayr with these things. I'll give you another practical shayla, almost unavoidable. As we know, an animal that's geshachten, the hind part of it, the back part of it, the acharayim it's called, we don't eat. Really, it's kosher, it was geshachten, but it's very hard to get out the chaylev from the hind part of the animal. So the acharayim, it's not treif, but we don't eat it. So what do you do with it? You can't throw it in the garbage. It's a very expensive part of the animal. So the standard minig is they sell it to the Goyish butchers and get whatever they can get for it. The question is, how could you do that? You're selling a treif piece of meat to a guy. Now, of course, the cow was kosher, but it has chaylev in it. So bishleim with the gid hanosher part, that's not edible, that has no taste. But chaylev is an issur deraisa. So here we come to an incredible chiddush, and that's based on a pasuk in the Torah. The pasuk says, chaylev nevela v'chaylev treifa Yeyasu l'chol malacha, but achol lo yisachluhu. Chaylev, you're not allowed to eat at all. But the pasuk stresses Yeyasu l'chol malacha. So based on this, the Mechaba paskins in our siman, and it's clear in all the poskim that chaylev, fat from a kosher animal, even though it's an available treif because it wasn't geschachtem, but fat from a kosher animal is mutter even to do schayr with it. There's an exeris hakasav, Yeyasu l'chol malacha, it's better than regular tarfus. You can't sell tarfus, but you're allowed to sell chaylev. Oy bazoi, it's very poshut. Because the only issur part in the acharayim of the animal is the chaylev, right? Chaylev is mutter b'hana, and it's mutter b'schayr. So this is why the minig has become that we don't try to get out the chaylev from the hind part of the animal, sell it to a guy. You're selling him chaylev. Chaylev is mutter b'schayr. So this is not worse. Now, Lamaisa, there are Moshe and Chaylik Beis and Archaim, Simon, Samach Dalet says it's even mutter to buy chaylev and make business with it. You know, it's a full heter. Chaylev is mutter b'anam and mutter b'schayr. Tarfus d'oraisa is mutter b'anam but also b'schayr. Now, a good marshal. Again, we live in a big world, not just Brooklyn. A person in business ends up with offers that sometimes just are irresistible. But here's the ma'aseh shehaya. Someone was offered to buy a big amount of animals. Horses, camels. Now, what am I going to do with the horse and camel? Nothing. But l'ma'aseh, a businessman, everything is money. He wanted to know, can he buy and sell animals, a treif of animals. Of course, a camel's treif, a donkey is treif, a horse is treif. So, why not? This is chayv b'dvar masurim. The horse is treif. But the one redeeming factor is that horses are not grown to eat. In fact, I heard that it's really illegal to sell horse meat. Horses are used in stables and in rides, but you have to realize it's not just today. In the old days, they didn't have car dealers; they had horse dealers. That was their mode of transportation. Can a firm have a rent-a-horse? He's making business from horses. Can he sell horses? So l'chayra, this is chayra b'dvar masurim. However, there's a toisim bava kama, a tremendous yisoid that impacts many different shaylas. Toisim bava kama tzadik beis med beis. There the sugi is you're not allowed to grow chazerim davar acha. Why? So the Gemara says ma'aseh shehaya. But there in the Gemara bava kama tzadik beis med beis and it's gepaskind in Chosh Mishpat Simon Tov Tes Siv Beis. You can't deal with davar acha. You can't even keep it in the house, in the farm, whatever it is. Frek Toisvis, why do you have to come on to special issur because davar acher is a ma'aseh shehaya? It's a regular dvar masurim. So Toisvis the teretz has a tremendous impact on our sugya. Zok Toisvis that the only issur of schar dvar masurim is things that are grown and raised to eat. Animals that are not raised to eat, they're raised l'malacha. There's no issur schayr. Schayr b'dvarim asurim of achila. And the truth is the Mechaba's lashon, right at the beginning of our siman, the Mechaba spells this out. That the issur davar jas ben atayim, af mishem mutar b'anoah, emu davar hamiyuchad l'maychel, asa. So in other words, there's an issur d'raisa of schayr b'dvarim asurim. But it's animals that, or fish, or shkotzim, that can and are typically eaten. But horses is no problem whatsoever. Of course, davar acha is raised primarily for its meat. And that's why it is, of course, it is a schayra. But it's more than that. Not only is it a schayra, you can't even have it in your house. You can't raise it on your farm. So that's why Lamaisa, it comes out based on this, a yid could have a pet shop. He could sell cats and dogs and parakeets and hamsters. They're all treif. They're all dvar masurim. But Lamaisa, it's not achila. And yes, a yid could sell horses or buy horses or rent horses. Horses are not oimid lachila. And the truth is, the Poskim explained that just like Chol HaMoyed is a deraisa, but Chazal, the Torah gave Chazal the right to define what's asa. This is the same lumdus. Avad is an issur d'oraisa. But the Torah, the Rabbi gave the Chazal the right to say, if it's not oimel achila, there's no issur. Now, what does it have to do with oimel achila? So this is a key point, that it seems the issur of schoira is shem yavel oichlai. If you're dealing with treifas all day, you're going to eat some of it. But if it's not eaten, then there's no issur schoira whatsoever. So this is a welcome heta, that something that's not oimel achila, there wouldn't be an issur of schoira, even though it's treif. So therefore selling animals to a farm, now typically the Hamisha camps do have little farms, but they don't carry tarfas. They have cows and they have goats, davar, a sheep, davar acha, of course is categorically asa. A yid can't deal with that. What? Avada. That's what I'm saying, it has to be. That's right, that's what we're saying. Now Lamaisa, as I told you, the Paiskim do say that Davracha has a special chumrah. What's interesting, the Darkei Tshuvas Analysim Zivkot and Yud quotes an earlier Shita, an earlier Paisik, the Maimon Mordechai, can a Yid raise silkworms? You think I'm joking, but it's not. He wants to make silk. Silkworms are awesome, but you don't raise silkworms for Achila. The Shevet HaLevi in Chelik Beisim and Samach Zayin has a shaila from a Moshav. They want to raise rabbits because rabbits, the fur, the hair, and the leather of it is very expensive, and it's a worthwhile investment. So he says, "Avad it's mutter. No one eats rabbit's meat. It's grown for its leather or its hair, so it's not immediate achila. Just like horses, a person can eat horse meat, but if it's grown for its produce, not the food, is mutter." The Marish Treif and the Tshuva, was asked about raising worms for food for goldfish. The truth is, raising worms today is also for bait for fishing. And he says that even though worms are issur d'oraisa of shkotzim, but it's not raised for achila, and it's mutter. The Rashba was asked in Chelik Av Taf Peites was asked the question of using leather of treif animals. So he makes this distinction, even though the animal's treif, you can't eat the meat of it, but the leather is not immediate achila. I once had a frantic phone call from someone who had a dry goods store, true story. And he got all nervous because he just learned the other night that you can't do schayr b'dvar masurim. So he wanted to know how could he sell his leather belts. It comes from animals, presumably treif animals. So I told him, relax, it says in Shulchan Aruch, leather products are not considered immediate achila. The Divrei Malkiel, Chelikei Reish Samach Vav, has a bigger chiddush, and he says that gloves from davar achar is also mutter. Now, of course, it's pashut to raise davar achar, these chazerim, to get the leather is awesome, because by davar achar there's a special issur of raising them even shloi l'midei achila. You can't keep it on your farm. But you walk into a store and they have gloves, typically gloves, and I never knew this, but I learned it this week. Footballs, of all things, footballs come from the leather of davar achar. So someone asked me, how could you play football? I said, no, there's no issur hana from it. You can't raise chazirim to make a football or to make a glove. That's pashut. But once you got it, there's no issur hana. It's not immediate achila. So this is what the Paiskim discuss. Again, something that maybe in Brooklyn is not so negeya, but around the world it is negeya. People that have dogs and they want to give to their dogs dog food. Is there a problem of schar b'dvar masur? So the emes is that there used to be an issue about the dog food containing basar v'chalav. Basar v'chalav is a deraisa of hana. So there's no heta whatsoever, of course. Now, but l'maisa, it seems that, in fact, they even asked once the OU to please give a hechsher on dog food. And the OU politely refused. We give a hechsher on dog food, that shows that we're not thinking. What are you thinking? You're giving it to dogs? But the yemes, you need a hechsher. Maybe not on the package, but if it's basar v'chalav deraisa, it's also about no. But the shaila here is, can a yid sell this dog food? Presumably it's not kosher, it's treif. So the emes is, dog food, understandably, is royal achilas kelev. I mean, it's made as dog food, right? They don't make it dafka inedible. And again, I never tasted dog food, obviously, but it seems it's royal adam also. Yet Rabbi in Yeridei Chelik Beis Simul Amud Zayin, he says since they label it, identify it as dog food, so no normal human being would eat it, even though be'etzem it's royal achila. And Moshe says if it's not the derech b'nei adam to eat it, there's no chashash of schor b'dvar masur. And Moshe has an interesting dig, because the Rav that I mentioned earlier says that if the derech is to raise horses just for the work of it, it's mutter. He doesn't say what's ro'i l'bnei adam. It's what's derech l'bnei adam. So in other words, even though the dog food in itself is ro'i l'achilas adam, nothing will happen, but it's not derech. No human being will eat dog food because he's not a dog. Is there anything wrong? No, but he won't do it. So Rav Moshe held in the tshuva that I mentioned, it's mutter to do schayr with dog food. I saw also the Pupa Rav Ayan Yosef in Yeridea in the end of Siman Samach Gimel. He has the same shaila, and he mentioned what I heard, that even though you're not allowed to sell horse meat for human consumption, but people can eat it. But since the Maisa, no goy, unless it's a goy nivza v'shafel, would eat dog food. It's very demeaning. I'm not a dog. So he's the same sort like Rav Moshe. He doesn't mention it, of course, but he does say that since the Maisa, it's not miyuchad lekach, there shouldn't be any problem with selling dog food. The next question is probably the most important group of questions. And that's the question, someone received a gift, I just had the shaila, a nice platter of treif meat, obviously. He said it's at least a value of $150. Wine could be that, and that price bracket, if not more. Even chocolate could be treif, not just it's not chol of Yisrael. Chocolate could be treif, the treif ingredients. Bekitza, he got a gift, a valuable gift, and he has what to do with it. He has a goyish cleaning lady, he has a goyish co-worker, he has a goyish worker. Bekitza, he wants to regift it to give it to someone else. So the emes is, there's no doubt about it, that's a form of schayra. You want to do, you have an obligation to give a tip to your worker. So you'll take this treif of meat and give it to him. Why is that a problem of schayra? However, here we come to the key word, and that's the Mishnah we mentioned earlier in Shvi'is, Perek Zayin, Mishnah Dalet, I'm sorry. So, tzidei chaya v'oifis, v'dogim, shenizdamnu lehem minei tmeim, mutarm l'machram. This is what's known as the heta of nizdamnu. Nizdamnu means it happened to, it came his way, it chanced upon it. What does that mean? So again, either you're a fisherman or a trapper, and you put out a net, and whatever comes is caught. And now you realize you caught a treif of fish or a treif of animal. Can I sell it? Because I can't eat it. Can I sell it to someone else? So this is the het of nizdamen. Even though you're selling pure tarfis, but you didn't intend on making a business. I'm not selling treif of fish. What should I do? My trap caught these fish. So since he's not mechaven lekach, it's mutter. It's mutter to have a schayr and have hana. And again, the heta is known as nizdamna because you didn't go out looking for it. But the chayra is not just the Mishnah, the chayra is a pasuk in the Torah. In Parashas Re'eh, as we mentioned earlier, lo'isaychel kol nevela, lo'geresh b'sharecha titnena, v'achala oimachal anachri. What is the pasuk talking about? Someone had a cow, kasher animal, and he tried to shecht it, but it didn't work. It was a pasuk shchita. Or the animal had an internal illness, and it's a treifa. So either it's an nevela or a treifa, but it's a kasher animal. Zok the pasuk, machal anachri. Why machal anachri? It's 100% treif. Who cares that it's a cow? It's treif. How can we sell to the nachri? The teretz is, this treif animal is a new expression of nizdamen. I'm not trying to sell davracha. I'm trying to shecht. But in nishkalunga, what should I do? So nizdamen is a mishnah regarding fishermen, and it's a pasuk regarding an aborted shchita. A pasuk of shchita leaves the meat as 100% treif, but there's no issur schayra. So this is the very broad heta of nizdamen. The point, the svara is that really the starting point is you'll have enough from treif meat. Navas, gzeres hakasav, you can't do schayra. I'm not doing schayra. I'm trying to shecht and it didn't work out. I'm trying to catch fish, and I caught a treif of fish. So the heta is, if it's not schayra, it's back to the heta of hana. So Lamaisa, no doubt about it. Someone goes to Chalamoid, he goes fishing, by the ocean over here, and he catches a huge fish, but to his great dismay, it's treif. So he could sell it to a guy, or swap it with a guy's kashier fish. It's chayra, true. This is mamish a beferish mishnah. This is the tak of the minig ad hayoim, the shlachtois where they slaughter animals. If it's not a kasher, ends up being a treif for shchita, or the animal's treif, they will sell the animal to a non-kosher meat store and recoup most of the losses. Now that's the chayra pashit. If a person has a treif of fish and he doesn't have the time to go sell it, he could give it to someone else to sell for him. It's not a heta on the person, not a heta gavra. The point is, this is damin. But let's say the fellow, the shliach, says, you know what, I'll buy it off you. You happy with this price? Good. He goes out and he looks around for the best deal to make more money. That's no good. Because the second person, the shliach, so to speak, he's already a seicha, a kluge mensch. So it's not a heta in the chayfetz either. It's a heta on the gavra and the chayfetz. You could sell to get back your money, but not to go make a business. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch says you can't make the heta of nizdamin. For example, someone doesn't have a shecht, or it costs too much to shecht. So he takes the kosher animals and he kills them, and then he decides he wants to sell it. You can't be mechaven for this heta. If a person has a treif animal, sell it the best you could do, or get a shliach, but don't make a business out of it. In fact, the shach says that if there's a different way of getting rid of it without selling it, that would be better, which typically is not the case. But no doubt about it, the shach says to give it to someone else who will sell it at a better price, that's already schayr b'dvar ma'asur. The Ramah in our simon, that's Kuf Zayin, quotes a Rashba. If let's say a guy owes you money, but he's not very reliable, he's not going to pay you, but somehow he chanced upon $1,000 of treif meat inventory. He says, you know what? I'm giving this to you. If you like it or not, I cannot pay. I will not pay you. Forget it. You want this or nothing? Can the yid take it and sell it? Make $1,000. So this is another form of nizdamein. This is called, when somebody came to him, ligva is chayvai, and the Rashba says that if he doesn't take this, he's not going to get the money. And it's nizdamein. And this is the way the Paiskim Takapaskin, the Shulchan Aruch quotes as a het to gomer. The matzil miyodoi is mutter. It's a form of nizdamein. But the chiddush is the Paiskim add even to take davar acher as payment is also mutter. Davar acher is more chum than any other tarfus. True. But it comes to losing your money, it's not a revach. You're losing the money you lent him. That would be mutter even by davar acher. Again, the shach, the pichadash all say, sell it right away, don't keep it in the house, don't wait, don't make a better food out of it, then make more money. Sell it as it is, get it out of the house. This is a form of nizdamin. A challenging question, if someone is walking in the street, obviously not a Jewish neighborhood, and he sees treif meat, can he pick it up? Once he picks it up, he'll sell it. So here we'll say, well, why not? This is damin. But it's not true. This damin is when you're doing a heter, and the fish came into your net. Or you're doing panasa, and again, the fish or the animal entered your trap. Here it's on the floor. What's that to pick it up? Had you picked it up, you could say it is damin, but you didn't pick it up yet. And it's a revach. It's not a panasa. So the main head of this damin is, it's yours already. So make the best of it. And this is your panasa. But here it's not panasa, it's not biyotcha, and most paiskim say, guess what? Leave it there. But to make it a little more gishmak, gvias choyvoy, if you don't collect this davar acher, you're not going to get payment. That's a hefsid. That's mutter. But leaving the treif meat on the floor is not a hefsid. It's a manias revach. In Luchs Chalamoid, it's not a hefsid. Let's make it a little more gishmak. And this is probably one of the most common questions. A yid received a gift from a guy, treif meat, treif wine, treif chocolate, whatever it is. Can he keep the gift and give it to someone else? So this, Dr. Kiva Ega and the Gilgal and our Simon, quoting a Tshuvah's Shaila Moira, one of the early Achronim, that says, if the guy brought you a gift, you're allowed to take it. You can't take an Aveda, why can you take this? So the Kiva Ega says, that this is nizdamein. And what does he mean? So this is one of the biggest yesodis of today regarding gifts. The Bri Chadash in Sif Cotton Yud Dalid says, he doesn't say these words, but that's what it means to say. No one in this world gives you anything for free. Especially not a guy. If a guy gives you a gift, it's not just a chesed. I mean, you do chesed, but not goy. Why is a guy giving you a gift? So Bri Chadash quotes the Gemara in Megillah Chavav Mid Beis. The Kamat, the same Gemara is in Bava Metzia Tezayin Amud Aleph. Ilav the Havle Hanomine, Laviyavle. A guy gives you a gift, it's not a gift. You know what's called in English? It's an investment. He wants to curry favor. He wants to, you should feel beholden to him. He's investing by giving you a gift, you will be meshuvah to him. But gifts are not given l'shem shamayim. As I state in Megillah Chavav and Bava Metzia Tezayin. So, oy bazoy zok the Bri Chadash, if a guy gives you an expensive meat platter, he did it because he owes you something. Oh, once he owes you something, that's like matzil miyadai. So receiving a gift, Zok Kivek quoting the Shaila Moira, is a form of ligvais chayvai. It's a legitimate nizdamein. But if you find a piece of treif laying on the floor, there's no nizdamein, there's no matzil miyadai, and it's menias revach. And that, the place will say, better leave it and don't pick it up. So the chiluk is pasha between ligvais chayvai and matana is a well-deserved payment. Mutter. Matana, hefka, there's no het. I once heard the shayla of someone, a guy had, pasha, he didn't have the room to keep this meat. I don't know exactly why, but he wanted to get rid of it. So, take it, get it out of my freezer, I need the space, it's yours. So that's also a case of hefka. But it's not matzil miyadai. It's just basically giving up a revach, and that should not be done. As we said earlier, the poskim say that you're allowed to sell treif of meat when it became shchita, when the shchita was treif. That's basically our pasuk. Question. Someone calls you up, a goyish colleague, he has a big inventory, he wants to sell it as is. Most of the items are kosher, or not issur deraisa. But there are some items that are issur deraisa. But he doesn't want the hassle to divide it. It's all or nothing. Take it as it is. The price is right, very good price, but lamaisa, some of it is issur Torah. Okay? The bulk of it is mutter, no problem. But there is issur Torah involved. By buying it, he's buying tarfus. So this lamaisa, the shach, Sif Cotton Vav, quoting Mami Panu, Hailechudei. Lamaisa, you're buying treif of meat. What's the heta? So Taka the Shach, quoting Mampano, is Machmir. The Bri Chadash also asks if cotton ches. However, the Taz quotes his Shver the Bach, and the Pri Toya, the Archaim HaKadosh, and our Simon, the Archashulchan, the Marsham, Rav Moshe, all go with this psak, that this is a form of nizdamim. You're not buying the treif meat because you want to buy a treif of meat. But you can't get it without buying. You would love to get rid of the treif of meat, but you can't. It's as is. So these paiskim, the Taz feels the issur is mechaven. This is, I'm being compelled to buy it. I don't want to buy it, but I have no choice. So the fact that I'm buying it as is a form of nizdamin. And don't forget, as Rav Moshe adds in a tshuva, when you go fishing, you know you're going to catch treif of fish. It's inevitable. And yet it's mutter. Teretz is, even though you know it's there, but once it's nizdamin, there's no issur. So these paiskim, and that's what the Taz writes, Kar Nagu, B'Medinas Russia, that's the minig. If you get a good deal, but it's take it or leave it, this would be a case of nizdamein that would be mutter. Now, of course, you have to be honest with yourself. If a big percentage is the treif of meat, and you wouldn't buy the kosher item just for itself, that's taka mechaven for tarfus. Got to be honest. But indeed, if it's the ikka is the bulk of it is heta or not issur deraisa, you're allowed to take the whole package and sell the treif of meat for the best that you could make of it. Another question that's negay, as I mentioned earlier, negay out of town, when a person wants to service his customers. So we said you're allowed to sell any issur derbanan, gvinas akum, cholav akum, pas akum. Again, I know some are machma by gvina, but the place we're not machalik. Question is, can he sell real tarfus? He'll have a section with big kiddush levana oisius, non-kosher section only. But he can't just sell the Rabbanan issur. He has to sell meat at a competitive price for a guy. Why should a guy buy meat, kosher meat? It's, I don't know, double the price, whatever. It's a lot more than treif meat. And his cheshbon is, it's a form of nizdamin. If I don't service my goyish clientele, they won't come. And the city, the Yiddish population is too small for Banasa. So he feels he wants to take a het of nizdamin. I can't do business unless I sell tarfas. Now, the emes is, it doesn't sound right because there's an unavoidable problem. And that's called lifnei iva. You're out of town and you're saying people will buy, right? Do you know every single person is a guy? You have to ask for a yichus brief. How do you know for sure there's no yid? He doesn't care. He doesn't care, but I care. So really, to say with certainty there's no lifnei iva, you have to have ruach hakodesh, unless you have a mamash, you know the yichus every single guy. But besides that, the Aruch HaShulchan and Siv Chav Zayin is matir, and his heter is the ikke asik is to sell food that's mutter, but he can't survive otherwise. It's l'tzorech parasasai. So the Aruch HaShulchan is matir not only to sell issur d'Rabbanan, but to sell issur Torah, and he calls it an izdamein because of it's one business, it's one purchase, one store, I should say. And the hefsed of the panasa. He looks at it like the entire inventory is one. However, the Darkei Tshuva and Sivkat Memvav takes strong exception. He says it's not true. You're not buying all from one distributor. You're buying the milk from one distributor. You're buying the meat from a treif distributor. What's your het in his damin? And he says an interesting analogy. Let's say someone knows that he's fishing, but a certain area is only treif for fish. So you can't trap dafka there. When you're doing something treif, it's treif. So how could you buy the treif meat individually? If you get a big closeout and they say take it or leave it, that's nizdami. But to service the goyish customer, you're going to have to buy treif meat from a goyish distributor. But that is no heter. Rav Moshe and Yeridei Chelik Beis Lameches also take strong exception, although typically Rav Moshe did follow the Aruch HaShulchan, but his taina is there's no heter hefset panasa to be over issur deraisa. The heter is nizdamein is part of my panasa, but not to do it issur deraisa because serach panasa. And Rav Moshe strongly rejects this heter, and the Kaf HaChaim and Sivkot and Samach Zayim and many other poskim after the Aruch HaShulchan all said this is not a proper heter. Again, buying a complete inventory, including tarfas, is nizdamein, but having a service for goyim, treif for meat, you have to buy individually. That's the issur of schoi b'dvar masurim. An extremely common shaila, especially during the goyish chag season, but even now, is giving a gift to a co-worker, a worker, a cleaning lady, giving a corporate gift. You have a big business, you have a lot of goyim. You have to realize there is a financial benefit in giving tarfas. If you're going to give a kosher product, the price indicates that you're not getting that much for your money. But if you could give a treif a gift, I don't know the exact percentage, how much the markup is, which has to be because lamaisa you have to shecht it. But lamaisa it's much cheaper to give tarfas. So the question is about gifting or regifting a treif item. So the emes is that buying the treif item is already a problem because you're being schoi b'dvar masur. But more than that, the fact that you're saving, you have an obligation to give your workers a gift. That's the more we said in Megillah, Bab Metzia, a gift is almost like a davar shebechayva. You have to give it, right? So what are you doing? Number one, you're buying treif, and number two, you're saving money because it's treif. That's a real McCoy dvar schoi b'dvar masur. And Taka the Beis Yosef, in the end of our simon, quotes the Machlamar Midivrei, and he says, if you have to give a gift, and you buy a treif item to give that gift, that is schoi b'dvar masur. Number one, you're buying tarfas, and number two, you're saving on your chayv. You're cutting your chayv in half. You're giving a treif a piece of meat. And that would be a issur of schoi. The Pri Chadash spells it out. You've got in Gimel, matana this type of matana, kimecha, v'havalei schayra, would be asa. Now the next question is trickier. Let's say a guy gives you a treif gift. Can you take it? So we would say, wait a minute. We said you can't pick up a treif meat on the floor. Hefka is asa, right? So why can I take a gift? But then again, this is different. We said from the Gemara Megillah and Bava Metzia, when someone gives you a gift, he's a bal chayv to you. He owes you. So he's paying up his chayv. So maybe fakir will use that in this context, the kula. Why is the guy giving you a gift? Because he owes you something. So if he gives it to you, he owes it to you. If you don't take this, you have nothing. So this is matzil miyadai. And who says this besides me? Rabbi Kiva Eiga, quoting the Shaila Moira. Sif Cotton Hay, he says, Avad, you can't pick up something from Hefka or Matana or a Aveda. But if the guy gives you a Matana, a Davatame, you're allowed to take it and sell it or regift it, because that would be a Matzah Miyada. He owes it to you. So this is a very welcome type of a heta, taking a Matana of Tarfus in any form, whether it's meat, chocolate. We'll talk about wine soon. Wine's a little more complicated. That would be the heta of nizdamein of matzil miyodai. The next question is, can I regift it? I mean, I can't eat it, right? What am I going to do with it? Can I give it to someone that I owe? Oh, so this is a problem. Because if I have to give a gift, I owe the person money. And my money owed a token appreciation. So I'm using this gift to pay up my chayv. Why is that it's a schayra? The answer is it is. But don't forget, since there's a heta to take the gift, because matzil miyadai, so once I get it, what am I supposed to put in the garbage? So matzil miyadai. Once you're allowed to take it out, matzil miyadai is damein, you're allowed to use it. So the answer is yes, you're allowed to take the gift, and we gift it to someone else that you owe. This is all the heta of nizdamein, it's the Mishnah, and it's the pasuk in the Torah, oimachar lenachri. This is a chayr pashit, as we said. In fact, the poskim say, if a person gets Yerusha, treif for meat, he's allowed to sell it. Now, I don't know the hechatim, so why his father had treif for meat, I don't know. But lemaisa, it's also matzil miyadai. So lemaisa, if you get a gift that you can't eat, of course, you're allowed to give it to a guy and regift it, and therefore you got rid of it. Toisim psachim chav gimel amud beis spells out, a Yerusha is a form of nizdamein, of matzil miyadai, and it would be mutter. The next question is wine. You got an expensive bottle of wine. Again, wine could be a nice $200. You can't drink it. Can you gift it to someone else? So Lamaisa, this is part of a different share. I want to tell you, we hope to talk about it because it's very common today, the yayin esech, stam yinam. But in Yoneinu, wine is much worse than regular tarfus. Even though tarfus deraisa and wine, treif wine could be an issur deraisa, but there's another factor called yayin nesech. Now let's be clear. If someone has wine that a guy poured by desire, the yayin is asa b'hana, even if it's kosher wine, it's asa b'hana and issur deraisa. You can't take it, regift it, nothing. It's isano. Isano has no heta. But today, and actually times of the Shulchan Aruch Hamor, people didn't do this nonsense, and it wasn't suspect to being a desire. So that's why the poskim said the following: if today in Tavshin Peivav you have wine that was poured by desire, asabana, can't take it, even if you lose a lot of money. It's asabana. But let's say what's called stam yeinam, which means the guy bought it in the store. They manufactured it, and the truth is, today's automated world, there's no people touching the wine even. But the Maisa, it doesn't seem there's a real concern of yayin nesech today in our wine. If you saw he poured it, is one thing, but stam. But then again, Chazal made a very strong shmira on yayin for two reasons. Number one, yayin is typically used for desire, and number two, yayin creates a certain bond, a certain relationship, which for us is chorban. Relationship with the guy is a terrible thing. So that's why the Mechaber begins Kuf Chav Gimel, Sif Aleph, Stam Yeinam Shal Amamamim Akum Osabana. Zokti Shach, why? First of all, maybe poured by desire. And number two, Als b'nai saying, we don't want you to come to marry goyim, and when you're drinking with goyim, or goyish wine, it causes a relationship. Zok the mechaba, therefore, stam yeinam, which means a goyish bottle of wine, is asabano. It's not yayin esach. We didn't see the goy pouring. But stam yeinam is asabano. The Ramah on this comments, Bizman hazeh, she'ein eshchiach she'uma is menaschal by the Zora, yesh oimim that yayin, stam yeinam is not asa bahano. Avada and avad asa b'shtiya, but not bahano. It's a regular issa of shtiya, but not issa hano. Now lemaisa, the Ramah does say lechatchila, don't buy it, and basically, as the Posek say, the Ramah is not so excited to be saimach on this unless it's a makam hefsid. Now, this is extremely negeya. I can't tell you how much negeya on a regular business setting. Goyim give not only the holiday season, but even the rest of the year. They give a bottle of wine. So a Sfardi has no option. Take the wine and put it in the garbage. Can't have hano. Can't give it to his dog even because it's hano. Can't give it to the clean lady. It's hano. So even if you don't have any chayiv to someone else, giving is hano, and the wine would be osabano. Mi'ikadidin for an Ashkenazi, the Ramah shita, it's mutabano. The Ramah is not so exciting, and the Posek, if it's not a big hefsid, get rid of it. But I tell you what to do. Yayin, stam yeinam. Again, the guy didn't pour, it's a closed bottle, nothing, no shail about yanesa, is stam yeinam, and therefore would be mutter to be gifted to someone else. Question. I had the shaila once, someone bought an interesting story, he bought a hamish product after Pesach. Gebacken nach Pesach, zip in the mail, the perfect hechsher. But they found out that the flour that the hamish company made their whatever item with was owned by a yid who didn't sell his chametz. So with all the hechsher and all the milas, this is chametz of Pesach, the real deal, mamish. Bekitza, someone bought this and he can't use it. It's mamish asav hano. So whether it's basa b'cholav or chametz of Pesach is more common, he bought it. What does he do with it? Can he go back? Today we have a world of returns. You can return and get back your full money within 30 days, and it's a pretty liberal return policy. Can he get back his money for it? So l'chayra, he's redeeming this item, getting money. It's hano. But that's right. But since it was a mekech tois mi'ikara, he's not getting back the money that he got from the issa hano. He's reversing the mechir al-mafreya, and l'chayra that should be mutter. I told you earlier, a football made from the oil of davar achar, you can't deal with that. You can't raise davar achar to make the football, but it's not an issa hana, and that would be mutter. Another question, a very serious question, people have this in different situations. He just got a shipment of vegetables, and it's supposed to be clean, and it's heavily infested. You can't eat it b'shemayfen. It's treif. So what do you do with it? A big shipment of fruits, whatever it is. What do you do with it? So pashtis, this is issur deraisa. Bugs are issur deraisa. The question is, can you sell it to a guy? Zok the Beis Hillel, in Yardei Simon Peidal, the issur of the Mechaba about shrotzim, he says, Asam and Atayra, how could you sell it to a guy? Issur schayr. And the Prima Godim in Peidalet, Sifkat Yitches, strongly accepts this shita. However, there is a starker taina of the Pichodash and others, and Pichodash says, I don't understand you. When you sell vegetables infested with bugs, you're not selling the bugs. You're not making an extra penny because there's bugs. In fact, it's just a problem. You're selling vegetables, and vegetables are kosher. You're not doing schayr with dvar masur. Azoy tainit the Pichodash, he says that the Beis Hillel, ein zu hayra shel klum. You're not selling the bugs. It's not like you're selling a piece of meat. The bugs are in the way. And this, although it's a chiddush, because the Maisa, the Prima Godim, the Beis Hillel holds it's us. You know why? I'll tell you, it's very pashut why. You're now to sell with Dvar Masur B'Shem Yavi L'Oichlai. So what are you doing? You're selling a whole big shipment of vegetables, which you could eat any moment, and forget yourself and eat. After all, it's supposed to be kosher. So why is no Chashash Shem Yavi L'Oichlai? But then again, the Bichadash says, it's not Dvar Masur. And the minig, the Beis Lechem Yehuda, the Shalom Meshiv, Chacham Shloima, and other poskim all say the minig is to be soymech on the Pri Chadash. If you get an inventory of vegetables or any food that are infested, could even be cookies, anything that has bugs in it, you're allowed to sell to a guy. You're not doing schayra b'dvarim asurim. Today they sell meat, dry meat. So someone had a shayla, he wants to sell dry meat with a vending machine. He won't sell it, they'll put a vending machine. But then again, it's still schayra. It's a shliach, but it's still schayra. So that's not much of a shayla. The Ber Moshe in Chelik Vav, Kuntres Electrics, Aleph Peidalid, says it's beferish. True story, someone asked me, he needed a job desperately. He found a job driving for Uber, but his department was Uber Eats, which means he's delivering food. Obviously, it's all treif for food. Is that including the issur of schayra? So the embassy, the same shilas, could be a waiter in a geisha restaurant, a salesman. There are many jobs. A person could invest and not get near the food. He could be serving the food, but it's not his. So this is part of a different sugya, but the Beis Shloima and the Mashag, two Gedolei HaPoskim say, if you're benefiting from tarfus, that's chayv dam asurim, period. Even though there's no chashash, shemayav la'oichle. However, there is a chsam soifa, actually 5 chuvas consecutive chsam soifa. You're there, kuf dal to kuf tes. Chsam soifa is a big arichas, obviously, but his main point is there are 2 factors involved in the issur schayra. Number 1, don't sell tarfus. You could be sitting in an office on a fancy recliner, not getting near the tarfus. But it's your business, that's schayra. There's no chashash shemav. That's not the limitation of the issur. You're selling schayra. Also, number 2 is the other side of the spectrum. He's a waiter in a restaurant. It doesn't own anything. But he cleans up the table, he has the tray of food in his hand. If he's a Yiddish person, shemav la'oichle. So Chaseifa proves, and Moshe rather accepted this halacha in Yeridei Aleph Nun Aleph, that either the 2 are enough to asa. 1, it's your business. Number 2, you might come to eat it. But if, let's say you have none of the above, there's no issur. Now, what's none of the above? Someone he's manning the phone. He's a sales representative to a treif business. He's not near the food. It's not his food. He's just working. Rav Moshe, in that shuv that I mentioned, has a shayla, it goes back in before the war in Luban, where there's a wagon driver that was transporting tarfus. Is that a schayv d'var asur? And Moshe holds it's muta because he's not so bad he's going to ganva the meat. It's not his meat. Why are you touching it? He's going to ganva it. A zoivite. Moshe goes to some soifa. If it's not it's not his benefit, and it's not chash of oichila, should not be a problem. So this is basically the aside to apply it. A Uber driver, it's certainly not logical. He's going to steal the meat, touch the meat, tamper with the meat. He'll lose his job. So probably that should not be a problem. A waiter is more of a problem. A question someone asked me, he has to make a party for goyim. So he decided it's all goyim. There's no yidden. He bought treif meat. So he did 2 avlos. Number 1, we don't make parties for goyim. That's a whole sugya, but it's not for now. But number 2, the problem is it's chayv d'var asur, because he bought the treif meat to cut the cost of the kosher meat. That is a real McCoy chayv d'var asur. A sugya which is not for now, but I would be remiss in not mentioning, is let's say a person has a big business and he has goyish workers and he has to give them lunch. Can he buy treif meat to give them lunch? So the Shulchan Aruch has this shayla. I feel like l'knoisei l'achila l'yapay alav akum also. Buying treif meat to feed your workers is chayr. The Shach, however, says ma'isa people are makel. What are they saying, Mechan? So he says that this is not an inyan of schayra. This is basically to be yotzi yechiyuv. And the Shach holds it's mutter mikidin to buy tarfus to feed your worker. Now this is a big sugya, but I wanted to mention it. And even bigger sugya is which they get to hundreds of yidden and probably millions of dollars a year. And that is someone has a healthcare facility, whether it's a nursing home or a rehabilitation center. The kids around the world, yidden are making sheina panosas from these type of businesses. A healthcare facilities in any form. And he went through the each one individually, and the entire clientele are all goyim. There's no chshach. I mean, how you know that for sure? I don't know. I don't know if it's even shaykh. But Lamaisa, he says he knows. So now he has 300 residents in his facility. Does he have to make them kosher food? Can he serve them treif meat? You're talking about 365 days a year. He's going to have to buy kosher for one reason, because schar b'dvarim asurim. But then again, what's the heta? He's buying treif meat to make panasa. So this is a sugya for itself, which is not for now, but I want you to know that I didn't forget that. And I know, I'll tell you two more shilas. I know a year, Zayin Gesund, he bought a company, I'm not going to say the name. It was a treif company. It was bankrupting, but the deal was unbelievable. The profit was unbelievable. And he bought it, and he's makbid adayim. There's no hechsha on it, but he doesn't sell anything that's issur deraisa. He follows halacha. He could sell the rabbanon, the kisurim, bishul akum, pas akum, but it's a very successful business, but there's no chashash whatsoever. It's only issur rabbanon. And last but not least, the Chelkas Yankov and Yerdei Chsimim Mem has an interesting shaila, where someone was in the army. He lived through World War I, World War II, and he got his ration of food, but it's treif. Can he sell the food to get other food, or swap with a goyisher soldier the food to has more food? So of course, if it's pekuach nefesh, do what you have to do. But let's say it's not pekuach nefesh. So he taka says, it's mamash awu sugya. They owe you something, they have to feed you. They gave you tarfus. That's like vias choiv. Maybe more than that, it's like this damnu, matzil miyodai, and he's taka mekel to sell it. And he says he found in the Imre Yoisha, Chelik Beis, Mem Aleph, who's also mata in this situation, because the point is, if it's not a kavanah for schayra, it's mutar with tag to you all. Oh, Kaddish. Say, Omer Bishmal, you want to say Kaddish? Yeah, no. You say Omer Bishmal, Omer.
Regifting the cashier and Ratzak and Sparkle Zank is a sort of big affair, but I'm telling you, it's not. Then you have to man seek a yad to have yad.
Amen. Hey.
Just to remind the Oilam, tomorrow night is the dinner for Yegin Torah, Young Israel of Avenue K. The Oilam is getting into Mishtatif design, but go moment. If you want to be Mishtatif now, there is a credit card machine on the bima.
Baruch Hashem, back in business. Even the issur schar is an issur derais like roiv rishonim v'achrayim. Even if it's no lif na'iva, even if it's not issur ha'ana, there's an issur schar of benefiting, selling, or gifting an item that's treif. The suffix of issur schar is a suffix deraisa l'chumra. By an issur derabanan, chalav, Akum, Gvinas, Akum, etc., there's no issur schar. The only schar is by an issur deraisa. It's mutter to sell chalev, fat of a behemoth tahira. For that, there's no issur schar whatsoever. The hind part of the animal is sold to a guy because it's only chalev, and chalev is mutter b'schayra. A horse and a camel, a pet, or any animal that's not oimid lachila, even though it's treif, there's no issur schar. You're allowed to sell horses, camels, or pets because there's no issur of schar by animals that are not miyuchid for achila. Selling a silkworm or worms, or we said, or a rabbit animals, these all are not animals that are eaten, and it's mutter to have hana and schayra from the byproduct. Dog food is taka no issa of schayra. Nizdamein means it came your way, he didn't go out looking for it, and there's also a loss, and the paiskim, the Mishnah is matir that you went fishing, you're allowed to swap the treif fish with a cashier fish. Apostle shchit, you're allowed to sell the animal because that's considered nizdamein. We also mentioned that buying something as is a closeout, take it or leave it, the whole thing, that's considered nizdamein. Gvias chayv or Yerush is also a form of nizdamein. A supermarket could buy a big inventory if it's sold as is, but he can't sell treif meat or treif items because that is a special part of the store. And that, although the Rachshach was makel, but most poskim strongly rejected that. A person received a gift from someone that owes him a karsatoiv, he's allowed to regift it or sell it. To buy tarfas, to give a gift, is also, that's the real issur of schayra. Wine is more chama, the fact that it might be yayin, it might be asa b'ana. Machab is machmer, svarad machmer, the Ramam Yikadin is makel. If you have an issur anah that you bought by mistake, you could return it for a refund. That's considered a mekach toyis. The raising davar achar is asar, but avada even for leather, even for making a football, because that's a special takana Chazal made. Infested vegetables, the meaning is to sell it to a guy when there's no lufn eva, of course. A vending machine is a problem of schayra. A driver or any worker that's not, doesn't own the food and or no issur of eating is mutter to work in such a business, to be a salesperson. Of course, working with the food itself, a cook or waiter should be asa. As we mentioned, that basically in making a party for goyim, treif meat should not be bought. That would be the issur of tarfus, besides the issur of partying. And a different share, we can leave it for different share, feeding workers and a healthcare facility, if that's a problem of schayra. That's Sadik. You know this about the schayra?
Oh, by the
Yeah.
Hawaiian.